All right, no mucking about with this commentary. Here's the scoop. Everyone now knows that the United Nations issued a report on biodiversity last week indicating that 1 million species, plant and animal, could be lost over the next several years if we don't do something urgent about it. The primary cause of the loss was climate change. We also have the report from the International Panel on Climate Change indicating that we have 11 years left to save the planet. When you take the two reports together, the two documents together, you have a kind of apocalyptic finale. So what do we do about it? What in heaven's name can be done? It strikes me that there are 4 potential interventions underway which are all significantly compromised. First of all, you have that remarkable young 16-year-old Swedish girl, Greta Thunberg, who has rallied young people all around the world to the issue of climate change. The problem is that the politicians with whom she's been dealing treat her in a supercilious and patronizing way. Number 2, you have the Green New Deal in the United States and the Green New Deal in Canada, which are excellent documents to implement, but naturally the sort of hardcore conservative middle is coming together, doing everything in its power to forestall the implementation. Number 3, you have the United Nations itself, particularly the Secretary General of the United Nations, who is considered the first citizen of the world. But Antonio Guterres is locked into a dreadful dereliction of duty. Yes, he talks about climate change. We all talk about climate change. He refers to rising sea levels and to inundation of coastal regions and to the evaporation of the polar caps and the agricultural shifts. But he speaks in those broad abstractions. He talks and says what everybody else says ad nauseum. He doesn't do the one thing he has the power to do, which is to name names. So he doesn't say that the United States has refused to provide the money for mitigation of climate change that developing countries need. He doesn't say that China, while it pretends to worry about climate change, is building a profusion of coal-fired plants, which of course discharge carbon. He doesn't say that Canada is not likely to meet the target it set at the Paris Accord. He will not name names. And so he resides in the world of abstractions. Someone has to tell Antonio Guterres that his title is Secretary General, not Secretary Generalities. And finally, we have the lack of political leadership. It should come from the G7. But of course it won't. It won't come from that denialist and idiot in the White House. It won't come from the United Kingdom and Theresa May, who is drowning in Brexit. It won't come from Macron, who's overcome by yellow jackets in France. It won't come from Italy, because Italy's many governments are far too unstable. It won't come from Japan, which is austere and removed. It won't come from Canada, whose Prime Minister is presently engulfed by a scandal which has significantly eroded his reputation. And it won't come from Germany, because Angela Merkel is on her way out. So where does it come from when the planet is at risk? Well, I never thought I'd say this or hear myself saying it, but it all depends on the outcome of the presidential election in the United States next year. If a Democrat who is intelligent and humane and compassionate and urgent is elected, then it may be possible to roll back the damage done within the United States and in the process begin to save the planet and humankind. Any Americans watching this commentary, it's in your hands. That was last week. I'm Stephen Lewis.